Having to fire someone can be stressful. Even after years in business, having to tell an employee, I have to let you go, it rarely gets any easier. Let's talk about how to let someone go, and more importantly, how to make it so you won't have to fire anyone ever again. Without question, having to fire someone can be stressful and emotionally draining. When you're taking an individual's job and livelihood away, termination should never be taken lightly. It can be that they just aren't fitting into your culture, or that they have toxic and derailing behavior, or maybe you've caught them doing something like stealing or lying. Whatever the situation, firing team members can be stressful. It's easy to see when an employee is trying to learn and get better. It's easy to identify a team player, right? It's not so easy when an employee is just going through the motions to appear productive. It's not so easy to recognize that what an employee is trying to tell you, it doesn't really reflect reality. Listen to that little voice in your head. It never gets better on its own. The longer an employee's subpar behavior or performance goes unaddressed, the more you enable it, and the harder it is to fix. There's a difference between micromanaging and coaching people. Remember, leadership is about achieving business results by coaching people to achieve their full potential. And if you ignore the importance of developing people, you won't like being a leader or a business owner. For more information on Coaching 101, you can always download my free PDF on my website. I'll leave the link in the show notes, or you can click on the screen right here. So once performance and behavior issues are identified, it's time to have the conversation that begins with, do I have your permission to speak frankly? The most common mistake that owners make is to address the problem, but not to provide any next steps to help the employee overcome the problem. It sounds like, hey, you need to get your retail number up, okay? And the employee responds, okay, and keeps trying what hasn't worked. So here's what you do. Prepare a written plan with the next steps that will help the employee achieve the win. The goal is to avoid having to fire a problem employee, right? And then schedule check-ins. This is important when trying to coach on behavior patterns. Check-ins need to be frequent, not spread over weeks and months. Frequent sounds like, hey, let's talk tomorrow at the end of the day to see how you're doing. There's something about daily that communicates that making progress is not only an expectation, it's non-negotiable. You'll know in a week or two if progress is happening, and if not, you'll know it's time to part ways. Don't allow the employee to have excuses for why they aren't doing what they said they would do. Remember, if you're buying excuses rather than performance, it's time to address what you're buying. Does that make sense? One of the toughest questions owners and leaders can ask themselves is, what do I own in having to fire this employee? If your answer is that you did everything reasonably possible, then that's good. If your answer is that you didn't address the employee's issues fast enough, or you didn't meet the promises you made, you have an opportunity to learn and grow. I've talked with too many owners that get stressed and anxious because they must fire an employee. Heck, I was one of those owners. Of course, there's nothing pleasant about firing someone. It's even tougher when you really like the person. Look, the fact is, the employee put a lot of effort into earning his or her firing by not correcting and improving. As the owner of your company, it is instructing you to terminate this employee. You are simply carrying out your responsibility to give the employee what he or she earned, which is to be fired.